The scene opens on a public road somewhere in the UK. It's raining, typical weather, but inside the car, the atmosphere is anything but normal.
Right.
The vehicle swerves aggressively to the side, tires screeching against the wet tarmac as it just grinds to a halt.
And this woman jumps out. She is absolutely terrified, practically vibrating with adrenaline.
She runs to the back of the vehicle and just rips open the boot, her heart pounding against her ribs. She is convinced, absolutely convinced, that a man is hiding inside.
But the boot is empty. There's no one there.
Nothing.
Just like a spare tire and some shopping bags. She stares at it, confused, terrified. She gets back in, drives a few miles, and then the fear just washes over her again.
So she stops. She checks. Over and over.
Exactly.
She sees intruders in her home. She believes she's being hunted. But the threat isn't a stalker. It isn't a kidnapper.
No, it's a chemical storm raging inside her mind, triggered by a single pill.
And the stakes couldn't be higher. We're talking about a beloved soap star, a picture-perfect family life that has just suddenly shattered.
And that devastating phone call where her own parents have to intervene and take her children away for their own safety.
The cameras flashed. The crowd froze. And just like that, Hollywood had a new obsession. Welcome to StarScope Report.
I'm your guide to the facts behind the frenzy.
And I'm here to ask the questions we're all thinking. Together, we're uncovering the reality behind the headlines. From Hollywood drama and music industry shakeups to the viral scandals that, take over your feed.
Our mission is simple. We take a stack of sources, articles, clinical reports, memoirs, and we extract the nuggets of insight you actually need.
And today, we aren't just looking at a celebrity breakup.
Not at all. We are looking at a medical emergency that played out in the tabloids.
Exactly. Today's deep dive is into the harrowing, headline-dominating saga of Helen Flanagan. Most of you will know her as Rosie Webster from Coronation Street.
An absolute darling of the cobbles for years.
For years. But the story we're unpacking today isn't about a script or a plot line. It's about a mother fighting for her sanity. And the headline that grabbed everyone, and frankly the one that stopped me in my tracks, was, "One pill made me lose my kids."
It's a terrifying sentence.
It is. How does a soap star go from red carpets to psychosis?
It's a really complex situation, and to understand the how, we have to look at the context. We need to rewind to late 2022.
Okay.
Helen Flanagan had just split from her fiancé of 13 years, the footballer Scott Sinclair. Now, they were never legally married. But Helen describes this split not as a breakup, but as a divorce.
And I think that distinction really matters here.
It does.
They were together from when she was 19 until she was 31. That is her entire adult life. They share 3 kids, Matilda, Delilah, and Charlie. You can't really just break up after that kind of history, can you?
No, it's a dismantling of an entire existence.
Yeah.
Precisely. And the sources describe what happened next as Helen entering survival mode.
Right, survival mode.
This is a key psychological concept. When you're faced with trauma like the end of a 13-year relationship, the brain sometimes just suppresses all emotions to keep the machinery running.
Just to get by.
Yep. She threw herself into work, she focused entirely on the kids, and she just kept moving. It's a classic defense mechanism. You defer the grief just to function.
You push it down so you can get the lunch boxes packed and the scripts learned.
Exactly. But you can only defer it for so long before that bill comes due.
You can't outrun that kind of emotional debt forever.
No, you can't. And the tipping point seems to be a trip to Bali for New Year's. She went with the kids, hoping for a reset, the classic eat, pray, love attempt to clear your head.
Right.
But she came back feeling isolated, low, and just completely unable to cope. She was facing this massive theater tour for a play called Cluedo 2.
A lot of pressure.
Immense pressure. And the weight of being a working single mom was finally crushing her.
So she's exhausted, she's emotionally brittle, and she has this massive professional commitment looming. This is where the medical aspect comes in, right? Because she didn't just snap out of nowhere. There was a catalyst.
This is where the story shifts from a lifestyle piece to a medical case study. To cope with this immense pressure to focus on her work, Helen took medication for ADHD.
Okay.
Now, we have access to a clinical perspectives report on this case, and it sheds a lot of light on what went wrong. It wasn't just the medication itself.
Right.
It was the medication in the context of her specific brain chemistry. Helen has a complex diagnostic history involving ADHD, bipolar disorder, and OCD.
Okay, hold on. I want to make sure I understand this clearly. She has ADHD, so she took ADHD medication. That sounds logical.
It does.
It sounds like what a doctor would tell you to do. Why did it go so wrong?
It's a question of neurochemistry. Standard ADHD medications are stimulants.
Yeah.
They work by increasing dopamine levels in the brain to help with focus and attention. However, for patients with bipolar disorder, stimulants can be really dangerous if the patient isn't already on a mood stabilizer.
So you're saying if you add a powerful stimulant to a brain that is already sort of prone to manic highs and lows.
It can act like throwing gasoline on a smoldering fire.
Yeah. So instead of just helping her focus, it pushed her way up the scale.
Much further than that. The records show Helen had stopped her bipolar medication back in 2016.
Ah.
So without that safety net, the ADHD medication triggered acute psychosis. This wasn't just feeling a bit off or hyper.
No.
She completely lost touch with reality.
And that brings us back to that terrifying image in the intro checking the boot of the car. That wasn't just paranoia.
No, that was a break from reality, a manifestation of the psychosis. She believed a man was in the boot.
Unbelievable.
But it went further. She believed intruders were inside her home while she was there with her children. She felt she was being watched, filmed, hunted, and possibly even drugged.
That is horrifying. It's not just anxiety. It's a total rewrite of reality where she is the prey.
And in that state of mind, your behavior changes to match the threat you perceive. Her nanny realized something was critically wrong and called Helen's parents, Julia and Paul.
And this is the part of the story that is just gut-wrenching. Her parents had to take Matilda, Delilah, and Charlie away for about a month.
They did it for the children's safety, which was absolutely the right call in that moment. But we have to look at this from Helen's perspective inside the psychosis.
Right.
She believes she is protecting her kids from intruders, from people hunting her, and then suddenly she is told that she is the danger.
Oh, the mum guilt.
The mum guilt associated with that, believing you failed your primal duty, is a secondary trauma in itself. It must be crushing.
The sources mention the shame she felt. There's a detail about her dealing with nursery teachers during this time. She felt they were looking at her like she was, and I quote, off her face on drugs.
And that stigma is incredibly powerful. In reality, she was having an adverse reaction to a prescribed medication due to a complex medical history.
But to the outside world, she looked like a celebrity spiraling out of control.
Exactly.
And the professional fallout was immediate. She had to pull out of that Cluedo 2 tour. She was replaced by Ellie Luch.
And she genuinely feared she had ruined her career forever.
It raises such an important question about how we view mental health crises in the public eye, doesn't it?
It really does. If she had collapsed from a heart condition or broken her leg, the narrative would be about recovery. But because it was a breakdown, there was this layer of shame and secrecy.
Speaking of secrets, Helen lost her kids temporarily, but the battle for her sanity was just the beginning. The psychosis didn't just create imaginary intruders. Wait until you hear the conspiracy theory she invented about her ex-fiancé during this whole episode.
Yeah, it involves a neighbor, a drug smuggling plot, and a hitman.
We're going to get into that and the public war that erupted over a nativity play right after this.
Coming up, a neighbor accused of being a drug smuggler, a secret plot to kill a soap star, and why a trip to Abu Dhabi turned a co-parenting relationship into a public war.
Welcome back to StarScope Report. We're deep diving into the Helen Flanagan saga. We've covered the medical crisis, the psychosis, and the heart-wrenching loss of her children, but now we have to talk about the fallout with her ex, Scott Sinclair.
This is where the story shifts from a medical crisis to a very public, very volatile co-parenting war. And honestly, it gets messy.
The headline here is pretty brutal. You are a piece of S. That wasn't a leaked text.
No, that was posted on Instagram for millions of people to see.
Wow.
And to understand that outburst, we have to look at the power dynamics. As we mentioned, Helen and Scott were together for 13 years, but they never married.
Legally, that's a big deal.
A huge deal. In the eyes of the law, that leaves Helen in a precarious position. The sources say she admitted to losing basically all my money at one stage.
This is something I think a lot of people overlook. There is this myth of common law marriage that if you live together long enough, you have the same rights as a married couple.
And then as a total myth, you don't.
So, the house.
The 6-bedroom family home in Bolton. That is in Scott's name. He pays the bills. So by 2025, a major dispute had erupted. Scott wanted her to move out or downsize to a 4-bedroom house.
And she refused.
She refused. She argued she needed the stability for the kids and wanted to stay close to her parents who, remember, were crucial in her recovery.
So you have this high-stakes housing dispute simmering in the background. She feels financially vulnerable, she doesn't own the roof over her head, and she's recovering from a major mental health crisis.
Right. And then comes December 2025, the nativity incident.
This is a classic example of modern celebrity conflict, isn't it?
It really is. It's the day of their son Charlie's school nativity play. For any parent, this is a huge moment. But Scott Sinclair is missing.
Where was he? Was he working?
He was at the Formula 1 Grand Prix in Abu Dhabi.
Oof. Okay. Look, I get having commitments, but choosing F1 over your kid's nativity play?
It's a bold move.
That is a bold move, especially when your ex has millions of Instagram followers and, a lot of repressed anger.
It didn't go well. Helen posted that story, branding him a piece of S and a D head. She asked, "How dare you not turn up?" It was raw, it was angry, and it was very public.
Did Scott respond? Did he apologize or, I don't know, issue a statement explaining himself?
No, he went for the cryptic social media approach.
Of course he did.
He posted a video of himself playing football with the kids, set to a song called My Home, with the caption, "When she strolls in like she's just won an award."
The pettiness, it's peak modern breakup. But let's connect this back to the medical side, because this animosity didn't just come from him missing a play, did it?
Wow.
During her psychosis, her brain actually incorporated Scott into her delusions.
This is what I find fascinating from a clinical perspective. Paranoia often latches onto the things we are most stressed about. We know she was stressed about the house and her relationship with Scott. So during her breakdown, Helen became convinced that her neighbor was a drug smuggler.
A drug smuggler. That seems so random.
It wasn't random to her. In the narrative her mind created, this neighbor wasn't just smuggling drugs.
What else?
He was working with Scott Sinclair to have her killed.
Wow. She thought her ex-fiancé had put a hit out on her.
In her state of psychosis, yes. It shows the level of distrust and fear that had permeated her subconscious. She felt hunted, and her mind assigned the role of the hunter to the man she had just separated from.
That adds such a dark layer to the piece of S comment later. It's not just about a nativity play.
Not at all.
It's about a total collapse of trust. She had lived through a reality where he was trying to kill her. Even after you recover, that emotion has to leave a mark.
Exactly. And it highlights the financial vulnerability of long-term cohabitation without marriage. Helen was the primary caregiver, struggling with her mental health, living in a house she didn't own, feeling like she had no control.
That loss of autonomy can be a massive trigger for anxiety and paranoia. It's a cautionary tale, really.
It is.
But the drama isn't limited to the ex. Helen eventually tries to re-enter the dating world, and let's just say it was turbulent. Up next, we're looking at the throuple rumor involving a boxer and why her daughter ended her next serious relationship.
And later, the shocking admission Helen makes in her new memoir about the dark, intrusive thoughts that haunted her motherhood. So scary she kept them secret until now.
If you're finding this deep dive into the reality behind the headlines interesting, hit that subscribe button. We've got more stories from the red carpet to the courtroom coming your way.
So Helen eventually tries to move on. She enters the dating world. How did that go?
Well, the headline was "Done with Men," if that gives you a clue.
Not well then.
Not well. But before she got there, there was the David Hay situation.
The boxer.
The boxer. Rumors were flying everywhere that Helen had joined a throuple with David Hay and his girlfriend, Sian Osborne.
A throuple. That's a very specific rumor to navigate when you're a mother of three trying to rebuild your reputation.
Right. Now, to be clear, Helen denies the throuple part.
Okay.
But she admits to going on a date. She met them. She thought Sian was beautiful, but she said she felt incredibly guilty about the whole thing.
Guilt seems to be a recurring theme for her.
It really is. And when she tried to end whatever it was, she claims David Hay was seething.
Oh, wow.
He allegedly told her, "Did you speak to Scott like this? No wonder he left you."
That is a cutting thing to say to someone who is already fragile about their breakup.
It's brutal. It targets her deepest insecurity, that she is somehow unlovable or difficult.
It really is.
But she tried again. She met Robbie Talbot. He's an ex-footballer, seems like a normal, nice guy. They dated for about a year. He even moved into her home because she admitted she was scared in the house on my own.
Which ties back to those intruder delusions we talked about earlier. She was seeking external safety.
Exactly. But they split in May 2025, and the reason wasn't a scandal or a fight. It was her daughter, Matilda.
The Matilda factor.
Yeah. Matilda is a proper daddy's girl, and she really struggled having another man in the house. Helen realized it was affecting her daughter, so she ended the relationship.
She put the kids first.
She did. And that demonstrates a significant shift in her mindset, doesn't it?
It really does. She's moving from seeking safety through a partner, having a man in the house to protect her, to prioritizing the emotional stability of the family unit, even if it means being alone.
It shows a lot of growth, and now she's taking control of her own story. In January 2026, she is releasing a memoir titled Head and Heart.
And the sources say this book is messy and unfiltered.
This is what we call narrative reclamation.
100%. She isn't letting the tabloids define her breakdown. She's defining it herself.
Yeah.
And she is revealing some incredibly difficult things.
She talks about severe OCD and intrusive thoughts, and there is one admission that is particularly shocking. She reveals she had vivid, violent images of throwing her baby daughter down the stairs.
And I want to pause on this because it's so important that we explain what this actually is.
Please.
When people hear that, their first reaction might be horror or judgment.
Of course.
But clinically, these are known as ego-dystonic intrusive thoughts.
Ego-dystonic. What does that mean in plain English?
Ego refers to the self, and dystonic means against. So these are thoughts that are the exact opposite of who you are and what you want to do.
Okay.
They're really common in postpartum OCD. Because she loved her baby so much and was so afraid of harm coming to her, her brain generated the worst possible image harming the child.
It's like a glitch in the brain's safety software.
That's a great way to put it. The thought itself causes immense distress because it is so repugnant to the person having it.
That makes so much sense. She said she kept it secret because it was so scary. She thought people would think she was a monster.
But by sharing it now, she's demystifying the battlefield of the mind for other mothers.
It changes the narrative from scandal to survival.
It's incredibly brave.
It is. But not everyone is happy about the book. Reports say Scott Sinclair is bracing himself for the release.
I imagine he is. If she's being this unfiltered about the darkest corners of her own mind, she's likely being just as unfiltered about their relationship and the breakdown of it.
Memoirs act as the final word in these public disputes.
They often do.
So what does this all mean? Where does this leave Helen now?
Well, the sources say she is currently single and done with men for the time being. She's focusing on inner work.
Good for her.
She claims to be in a good, happy place and feels lighter after therapy.
It's a long way from the boot of that car.
It is. Helen's story starts with a pill and a breakdown, but it really ends with a massive question about the industry.
Which is?
How many of these celebrity meltdowns that we consume as entertainment are actually medical emergencies that were ignored until it's too late?
That's a great point. We watched her spiral, we read the headlines.
But she was in the grip of a chemical storm.
And with that tell-all book hitting the shelves, you have to wonder if the war with Scott Sinclair is over, or if it's about to enter its most explosive phase yet.
One thing is for sure, she's not staying silent anymore.
You've been listening to StarScope Report, where Jordan and Jamie uncover the stories shaping Hollywood, music, and pop culture. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that keep the stars shining.